What if getting healthier didn't actually cost you more time, but rather it created more time for you? It gave you time back. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Nate, I understand. I get it. If I work out now, I'll live longer. So we'll have more life. That might very well be the case. But my guest today is going to talk with us about how we can bend time. We can create time right now, right away, by taking care of our health. You're going to want to listen to this one. Here we go. My guest today is Michelle Niemeyer. She's a speaker, she's a coach, she's a former attorney who helps professionals learn how to bend time so they can stay sharp, productive, and profitable without burning out. And she is going to talk with us today about her own personal journey and how she recommends her clients get started bending time, creating more time. You are going to love this one. If you've ever felt like, I don't have enough time to prep healthy food, I don't have enough time to work out. If you've ever said those words, I don't have enough time, this is the one for you. Listen up, enjoy my interview with Michelle Niemeyer.
The
Yep.
autoimmunity thing is, I'm sure you saw that in my bio. That's kind of what put me on this path. So, I learned what I learned through having gone through dealing with that. And
Yeah.
from learning, and ironically for me, the diagnosis was a year into a journey of getting in the best shape I was in my
Hmm.
life, being a
Yeah.
Beachbody coach. I was doing the things for about a year. And I thought that I thought I had taken care of what the doctor thought was potentially early gallstones.
Okay.
And a year later, I had a UTI and they did a blood test and they were like, these liver enzymes that indicate gallstones are now twice as high as they were a year ago, which meant they were like, one of them was 3 times the upper range of normal.
Okay. Well,
And, so that turned into a diagnosis of this very rare autoimmune condition. And in learning to deal with that, the big thing for me was getting to the part where functional medicine treats, core problems and not symptoms. It's more about, well, what's causing this? And then how do we do things like fix your microbiome and reduce inflammation and reduce stress and, that kind of
mhm.
stuff. And I've done all that plus the medical part. And what I was told in the medical side was we can probably keep it from getting worse if the drug works and there is a drug. And I tried not taking the drug. I can't not take the drug. I tried it. And I had a doctor recently tell me, "Are you sure that you have it? Maybe you have this other thing." And I was like, "Well, I intentionally stopped taking the drug and the levels went right up again." So I
Okay.
think they're right. It's just like it, but the combination of that and all the lifestyle stuff, I've reversed the disease and reversed the damage to my liver. So, which I was told you can't do. I was told it's, you know, where you are now is where you can expect to stay, assuming that we're successful. And if we're not successful, there's going to be a chronic, like, decompensation, so to speak.
Okay. Wow. So
So,
what
yeah.
for you was I know you mentioned there's a bunch of things. What do you feel like were the things that made the biggest difference or
I
maybe the
don't know.
biggest shifts in your lifestyle as it
I wish I could tell you.
yeah.
I don't know. I made major changes to my diet. The one dietary change that is like consistent and has stuck and will stick forever is getting rid of gluten.
Okay.
Um, I did an autoimmune, elimination diet, and when I reintroduced gluten, I've never been in so much pain in my gut in my life.
Hmm.
And after that, I just stopped. Um, I can't get a celiac test because it tests for an antibody, but my guess is if I chose to eat gluten for a few months and then tested, I would test with celiac, but I don't know that. And weirdly, this is something that my doctor told me about I never knew existed. You know, you hear about celiac disease and you hear about these people who have these unexplainable, terrible gastric problems and,
Mhm.
digestive problems,
Yeah.
and they feel bad and they lose weight and all this stuff. I never had any of those symptoms. And my doctor told me there are a lot of people who are asymptomatic celiacs.
Huh.
So
So
if you were to do a biopsy of their colon, or their small intestine, you'd see the celiac, but it doesn't show itself necessarily in the ways that we hear about all the time on everyone.
gotcha. It's coming up way farther downstream for them then. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's hard to know, and I think these things are just random, but that's a biggie. That's one of the big things I
Yeah.
changed. Another big thing I changed, like I said, I move my body as part of my lifestyle,
Mhm.
not really as an active exercise thing, but more as part of my lifestyle. I stopped doing 2020, I messed up my knee really bad, like
Oh,
could
man.
barely walk on it kind of bad.
Okay.
And I stopped working out for a while and then I kind of never got back into it. So, I do some, but and then I get into these periods of, well, maybe I should do more and I do a little more and then I don't, but
Yeah. I think lifestyle is what we talk about a lot, and
yeah, but it's like
that's
the
100%.
regular every day is more, you know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then the other thing really, and I don't know how much of this mattered or not or whatever, there's some supplements I started taking that were recommended by a doctor in Australia that I found online. None of the US doctors said you could fix the damage from this disease. And this lady in Australia said you can. And her suggestion was vitamin C and selenium. I was like, that's not gonna hurt me. I talked to my doctor. She's like, yeah, go for it. That might have helped. I don't know. The other thing that I've done is, I mean, just the normal, like I drink tons of water now. I was doing that anyway though with the
Mhm.
Beachbody stuff. Um, you know, way less sugar in my diet than there was in the earlier parts of my life, way less,
Yeah.
I don't have corn oil in my house. The only oils in my house are coconut oil and olive oil, and avocado. I
Mhm.
don't use a lot of chemical generally,
Yeah.
like even to the level of, what I clean my house with and what I put on my body.
Yeah. Just being more careful about things that are easier to control, right? Just,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean,
just use this
those are all
instead and
things I
that.
can
Yeah.
control and do something about, and so I
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah.
And, which ones of those helped? I don't know, because really, if you talk to a medical doctor in this country, they don't even know what triggers the disease, what causes it, or what,
Sure.
so what was it? I mean, I'm a big believer in this toxic load theory.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And, you know, too much toxic load creates inflammation, creates immune responses, and there you go.
Right. Yeah. What's the straw that broke the camel's back? Let's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
take
And
away as
stress
many
was big,
straws as we
learning how to
can.
manage that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's from what I've read, that's kind of where your focus is now in helping others um, with time management and then the resulting reduction in stress, right?
Right. So one of the big things that I focus on, I I like to call the art of bending time a backdoor burnout prevention program.
Okay. Gotcha.
A lot of the people that I've talked to, who I've observed, who I know, who are super burned out, don't know they're burned out.
Hmm.
Their mark of pride is their busyness.
Yeah. And
You know what I
maybe
mean?
that's the mark
I'm
of
so busy.
being
I'm
burnt
too
out.
busy. I'm so busy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm always,
Yeah.
always in action, always doing something. And even when they're on vacation, they don't stop.
Right.
And if anything, I have friends who come back more stressed out after vacation than they were when they left because they've packed so much into their vacation
Yeah.
that they never stop moving.
Right.
And so, you start with that and then you go to, okay, you're doing a ton of stuff. All right, great. What are you getting from it? And where burnout happens is when you tip into that place where all of a sudden it's, they used to, I think I see it as the same thing as what they used to call midlife crisis.
Mm.
And, in a lot of ways, like what happens? You work and work and work and you hit this point in your life and you're doing for your kids and you're doing for your spouse and you're doing for your parents and you're doing for your community and you're doing for your clients. And all of a sudden you're tired and you're like, what am I getting from this?
Mhm.
And you start feeling resentful and you start feeling detached. And, you all of a sudden feel like your clients are taking advantage of you. And everybody's always asking for things and nobody's ever contributing.
Yeah.
And that's the point. I mean, that's classic burnout.
Mm.
And when you're in that place, then you become less effective. You become, you're frustrated, you're detached. And cynicism is actually part of the definition in the World Health Organization's definition of burnout.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I have to check
it's
it out.
negative. It's
Interesting.
like cynicism about your job, about your career.
Okay.
And, that happens to people and it creeps up on them. Like they've given and given and given and they've loved. There's a reason they started doing what they do and they loved it. And then all of us, and they've given so much to it. And then all of a sudden they're like, what happened to the me that was 25, like
Yeah.
20 coming, in college, dreaming of traveling the world and, doing this, this, and this. And I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
And then they crash. Then they're like, they go through this existential crisis, right? Of why am I doing this? And they're
Mm.
trapped in it or they feel trapped in it. So one of the first things I do with people is get them clarity on who they are and what lights them up in their core. Not in like
Yeah.
this is what the world says I should have. This is, I'm expected to have a family and 2.x kids and a car and a house in the suburbs, but who am I and what lights me up and what makes me happy? Do I love my cup
Mm.
of coffee in the morning? Do I love walking by the water? Do I, light up when I see clouds in the sky? Like little things,
Mm.
music. Um, and then proactively getting that in your world, in your life, in all of your life, not just at work, but in your,
Mhm.
however you can. So if there are things you've given up that you love, make a point of getting those. I had a guy double his
Mhm.
business after he started surfing again.
Wow.
And you think about it, like surfing pumped him up.
Yeah.
Being pumped got him in the right mindset and energy to make sales calls.
Yeah.
And by the end of 12 weeks, he had doubled his business.
Awesome.
And it started with us realizing that he wasn't moving his body the way he should. And he felt, how you feel when like you're physical and you're just like, oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not
Yeah.
moving. I'm not doing what I
Sure.
need.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there.
I get there after like 4 days. Okay.
Well, he was the father of a 3-year-old and his wife was a personal trainer. And they had decided that they had a family value of teaching their child that exercise was, they wanted to normalize it as part of
Sure.
life.
Sure.
And so every morning when he used to work out at the gym and like, like lift heavy weights and whatever,
Mhm.
he started basically playing with his kid for an hour in the morning. Like he and his wife would work out with the
Yeah.
3-year-old. And
Nice.
obviously, he wasn't getting like a real man workout while he was working out with a 3-year-old. And he realized, oh my God, like I haven't been working out in a year because we started doing this thing with my kid.
Okay.
And,
Mm.
so the clarity thing is really important.
Yeah.
I bring that in because it helps people then to go, oh, okay, this now how do we pare down? Like we've got all these things on our plate. We've got a million things we've committed to or whatever. Which one of those really matter for what you care about? And then you start working on finding ways to offload, whether it's, getting a virtual assistant,
Mhm.
delegating in your office to your team, whatever it might be. getting your kids to do something at home instead of just sitting around playing games.
Okay.
My sister still complains to me because she's always got a like she's got a sink full of dishes when she comes home from work at like 9 o'clock at night. And she's got two 19-year-olds and a 17-year-old and a husband in the house. And
Mm.
she's allowing that, like there's a point where you just don't.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Start offloading. Clarity, offloading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the health and since your focus is on health, I mean, the health is a really core part of it. I
I
have
believe
my
it. But you know what? And probably before we officially started our conversation, I think we touched on this, Michelle, is what I was kind of expecting from our conversation is let's help people find time in order to work out. But what you're helping me understand is working out
gives
helps you
them the
find
time.
time. Tell me more about that. Could you tell me how that
Yeah,
works?
so that and this is what I teach them, and this is the whole concept of bending time, is that let's say you're somebody who's doesn't work out at all, doesn't move your body, wakes up, gets in the car, sits at your desk all day, goes home, sits on the couch, goes to bed.
Hmm.
And you don't have that baseline level of energy. And so you become sluggish, you become distractible, you become unable to be in a flow state. Flow
Yeah,
state activity allows you to get things done way faster and more accurately. So if you're that person and you're going to work and you work in a job where you have to do, hard, like brain work where you have to stay focused and you have to be productive, what you're going to find is that the task that takes you an hour when you're in a peak condition is going to take you 2 hours or more when you're not in the peak condition because you're distractible and because you're not getting it done as fast. And on top of that, it may affect your mental capacity, as in like your short term memory and that kind of thing.
sure.
So you may be in a position where it takes you longer because now you're looking up the number that you just wrote down, but you can't remember half of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like you got to fill in the verify thing and you're like, there's 6 numbers on it. And you get back after 4 of them and you're like, oh my God, what are the other two? And you have to look back. Right? That
Hmm.
just took more time.
Right. And you're doing
So,
that probably more times throughout the day in so many ways than you even
right.
realize,
And you
right?
add it up. And so when you start doing those things and you take away the amount of wasted time that's caused by those inefficiencies that are
Yeah.
directly associated with your health, you're gaining an hour a day, probably, just with that, just with the health part.
By spending the time
By
working out,
spending
you're
half an
gain.
hour on a
Yeah.
workout
Yeah.
and a little bit of time prepping healthy food.
Yeah. Absolutely. Investment.
Yeah.
I love it. Good. And you're seeing this consistently working for busy, burnt out people.
Yeah. Because the first thing they give up is the things they perceive as for themselves, right? So a lot of people think of their time to work out as that's like a selfish thing.
Right.
It's not a boost my productivity thing. They don't think of it that way. They think of it as how they're going to look better, whatever. They're not
Mhm.
thinking of it as if I take this half hour, I could gain an hour in productive time just by being, or if I get up from my desk 5 minutes out of every hour instead of sitting there the whole time, or if I take a break in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it reminds me of that old sharpening the axe story. The two
Hmm.
guys tree chopping contest, and the one that ends up winning is the one that kept leaving
Right.
instead
Because
of
he
just
was
chopping
sharpening
all
his
the time.
axe while he was, right.
Yeah.
And that's true. Like that really matters. I realized in the later stages of my legal career, which I wound out about a year ago, um, I had a big case that had two appeals within about a year. And they were big, like First Circuit of in Boston, big appeals. And I had to write these appeals, and then I had to go and argue them. And when you argue an appeal, you need to be like really on top of the case law. And that means looking at, literally thousands of pages of case law and having it organized in a way that while you're standing there in front of three judges who could ask you anything, you're prepared to answer. Right.
Okay.
And, I took time to I took 4 days before the hearing just to go and isolate and work on that. And normally I would have taken like 2 or 3 days and I would have worked like all nighters almost. This time I took the time. I made a point of taking like an hour and a half walk every day. This was
Nice.
in the last one was in the winter. It was December. I was on Cape Cod and it was December. It was
Bundle up.
freezing cold and I'd go
Yeah.
for a walk and it was the greatest thing because I'd come home totally pumped.
Yeah.
I worked less hours, way less hours on it than I would have otherwise. I had better recall in that hearing than I ever had in my life. I
Wow.
didn't need to look at my notes.
Wow. That's awesome. You got me excited about going out and taking some walks.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. No,
I
I'm
know
a
it.
big proponent of the take a walk thing. Like I
Yeah.
tell people cuz what happens with a lot of people is they fall down that rabbit hole of whatever they do especially when they're kind of tired like in the afternoon and it's like I've started just I take like a 15-minute walk in the afternoon just to blow off some steam
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and it gets me like I could spend if I sat down and I work in a home office, which is dangerous, right? Because
I work at a home office in the
anything can distract
basement.
you working at a home office. And so, I could so easily turn on the TV to check out the news, and the next thing I know, I'm in Netflix
Mm-hmm.
and I'm done for the day, right?
Sure. Sure.
Versus I go for a 15-minute walk and I come back and I'm focused again.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. What do you recommend somebody listening, they're realizing they've got to do something? What would be the first step? Like the smallest, easiest little first step for them to begin moving in a healthier direction in terms of how they're using their time.
I generally tell people, and it's the first step with every client I work with, I have them do a clarity exercise.
Okay.
And it's like a guided meditation that I put together. And, if I'm doing it with somebody one-on-one, I do it, I've done it on podcasts actually. I did it with a podcast host once just to, we went through his.
Okay.
But I do this clarity exercise, and from the clarity exercise, we're able to identify those things that light you up and that you might feel like you're missing. And when you find those things, that to me is a first step in kind of getting some guidance about where do I start? Because you
Yeah.
might not know where to start.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get in that living like in a cycle of busyness mode, you've lost sight of those things that matter and that make you happy and make you feel motivated and excited and
Hmm.
interested in things.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I have people do first.
Sure. Yeah. Hmm. I love it. Love it. What is the best way for somebody to get into your sphere, into your world? How can they get in touch with you and get started if they want to learn more?
I have a text that they can use, which is probably the easiest if they're in the United States. It's to text the word clarity to 33777.
Okay.
And the other is to go to a link, and I can give you that link
Yep.
on
I
my
will.
website,
I'll
which
make
is
sure
the
that's
same
in the
thing.
show notes. Yeah.
It brings them into a community I have that has my tools. And from that community, they can connect with me and do whatever they want. Hire me to be a speaker at their business or a workshop presenter or have personal coaching or whatever they want.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Such a cool conversation.
Yeah.
Got me fired up about just getting outside more often. Talk about it a lot and sneak it in, but I gotta get some walks. This guy's gotta
Yeah.
get less lifting weights, more walking.
You got it.
All right, awesome. I hope this one hit you in just the right place. I hope that it inspired you to pause, to take a breath, to look at how you're spending, or rather, how you're investing your time. Because as we heard today, taking care of our health, fitness, working out, eating great healthy food, and the time it takes to shop for it and prepare it, all those things, they don't just cost time, they actually create time right now. So take a moment and just get recalibrated. Focus on something that you know is going to improve your health. Do it with confidence. Do it without guilt that you're spending time on yourself when you should be spending time with someone else or on something else. Because the case is this, the truth is this: as you invest time in taking better care of yourself and your health, you know now you are actually creating time, time that then you can use to do those other things, to care for those other obligations, to take care of the people that you love and the things that you love to do. So get calibrated, set aside some time to invest in taking better care of yourself. And if you know someone else who's out there who needs the reminder to slow down, to sharpen the axe, please share this with them. Just hit the share button and text it over to them so that they have it as well, or share it with someone who you know is going to support you as you make your health more of a priority without worrying about the time that it's going to cost. You could do it guilt free. You could get started right now, and it's going to benefit you and everyone else that you care about, everyone else that you are taking care of. So go ahead and go for it. Get set up. And if you're looking for, okay, I know that I want to do this, but I'm just not sure first steps, next steps to take, go over to beginwithin.fit. That's my website. I have tons of resources there, including real easy programs that you can get started. No commitment. Use them as long as they're working for you. Quit anytime, but get started. Do something today that is going to help you to move in a healthier direction. Thanks so much for being here with me. I absolutely love our time together. Thank you as well if you have commented on the videos in Spotify or on YouTube. I absolutely love it. I love responding to those and getting a conversation going. So feel free, if you haven't done so, make sure you rate and review the podcast in your podcast player, or drop a comment, subscribe, or follow the show so that you're here next time. I will be here next time. And until we talk again, please keep taking good care of yourself.